Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure. Thanks so much for tuning in to a special edition of the show. We're kind of getting back to our roots here at the Victory Podcast. Just almost 2 years ago when we started the podcast, I did exclusively interview shows. So this is going to be an interview episode today. So excited to talk to USC's new defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn. It was a fun conversation with Coach Lynn. Got to learn a little bit more about him and his scheme. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to keep today's intro short and sweet. But if you like what you're hearing, whether it's via audio or video, be sure to subscribe on your podcasting app or over on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. We have a fun time here on the show, whether it's breaking down film with former USC quarterback Cody Kessler or talking to players, coaches, and the like. It's a fun time, and we hope you join us for the journey. But without further ado, let's head into the interview. I'm so excited to introduce our next guest, USC's defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn. Coach, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
What's it been like for you? From the outside, it seems like you've just been on this whirlwind on the recruiting trail these last couple of months. What has it been like for you as USC's DC?
It's been exactly that. Just the timing of the hire. As soon as I got the job, we were right on the road. And then we came back in the office for a week, and they were right back on the road. So it's been focusing on the 2024 class, then the 25 class, then transfer portal. So this was actually our first week back in the office. We actually got a chance to do some football with the players, so I'm excited to actually get back to football now.
If I'm not mistaken, this was your first full recruiting cycle at the college level, right?
It was, yeah. I got to UCLA last March, so this is my first time going through this, and it was a great learning experience. The staff helped me out a lot.
What's it like, you go from the NFL where there isn't recruiting and especially young teenagers. Mm-hmm. Did you have to kind of learn on the fly how to appeal to a younger audience?
Definitely, yeah. In the NFL, you don't have to recruit anybody. You go and you interview people, and you're trying to figure out if you like them. You really don't care if they like you because you're going to draft them. When you're recruiting, it's the exact opposite. They're picking out what college they want to go to. But we're recruiting very talented players, but we're also recruiting very good kids. And when you're recruiting good kids that you like their parents, you like their high school coaches, it makes the trips a lot easier.
You mentioned this is the first real week in the office with the players and the staff. What has that been like, kind of having your first experience in that sense?
It's been awesome. I've been looking forward. We met with them yesterday and got a chance to go on the field and do some stuff, and I've been waiting for that day since I got the job, so I was super excited.
You got to speak to the media on Thursday, and it answered a question I've had for a while since I've been studying or trying to study your defense. Mm-hmm. You show so many looks pre and post snap, but everyone's so assignment sound. So I was like, how do you make sure that everyone knows what they're doing? But you kind of answered it yourself. You said in spring, it's a very, very slow install. Yeah. Do you feel like that's the key to everyone knowing what their assignment is?
Yeah, that's the key to everything on defense. I feel like, if you can eliminate big plays, when guys know what they're doing, when there's not miscommunication, when you aren't just giving things into the offense, it always puts yourself in a better position to play good defense. That's the last thing you want to do is just give them something. So we want to be multiple. We want to mix things up, but not at the expense that we're going to have someone not knowing what they're doing or not having guys in the right place.
Do you have to kind of get guys on board that you're going to go slower? Do some people get a little antsy in spring in that sense?
They did at UCLA, yes.
Okay.
The same thing will probably happen here. Early on they don't because everything's brand new. But then after the first couple installs, it's like, all right, we want more. But we're going to do the same thing here. We install very, very slow. We just want to get the core concepts in because I'm a big believer. If you can get the core concepts in this spring, then a lot of the stuff that we do in the fall is based off of those concepts. So it might look like a lot, but it's really just comes back to the stuff that we did in the spring. It just looks different.
I thought it was fascinating you saying how you kind of had to go back to the drawing board when it comes to teaching college kids compared to NFL players. What was that learning curve like for you at UCLA?
It was a big learning curve. It was my first time being the oldest one in the room.
Oh, wow.
I haven't been in a position room. Every position group I've been with, just because I started off so young, there's always been people older than me that I coach. So it was my first time just really I'm just around kids. And the thing I learned is that you can't assume anything.
Yeah.
In the NFL, you assume that everyone knows at least a certain level of football or else they wouldn't have made it this far. Whereas with these kids, you don't know what their backgrounds are. You don't know what they've been coached, what they haven't been coached. You have people coming from all over the country, different types of programs. So you really have to teach it as if they don't know anything because someone in the room doesn't. So I feel like it makes you a way better teacher because you're really teaching something from the very, very ground bottom, which I've never had to do before.
Yeah, how did you adjust to that once you figured that out?
Like the staff helped me out a lot. But again, just really simplifying things, moving even slower than I originally thought that I was going to. But again, just really leaning on the staff and just learning on the fly.
Speaking of the staff you've assembled at USC, so much knowledge and experience. It's incredible. How do you harness that knowledge to its best ability?
I mean, we've been having great meetings. Everyone has had success doing things a different way. You have coaches who have had success in the NFL, coaches who have had success in college, coaches who have been head coaches and coordinators. So it's a lot of good ideas, and we're just trying to find the best way. So, it's a lot of productive conversations, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of good guys who put the team first. And it's not about whose idea it is. We're just trying to get the best idea. And so far, everyone's been doing a great job with that.
It seemed like the common theme in the press conferences on Thursday was development and teaching. Was that something that you guys sought out to find in your assistants when you tried to fill those positions, or was that just something that naturally kind of bonded you all?
No, I think, obviously recruiting, but then the development piece, I think that's huge in college. When you're, it's huge at all levels of ball. But when you're drafting guys in the NFL, a lot of times you're drafting guys that you want to come and play for you immediately. Now, you still have to develop those guys, but they're already developed to a certain extent. When you're getting kids out of high school, again, like you really are like their foundation, and you're developing them from the bottom up. So I think that that's crucial because we can recruit the best players in the country, but if we're not developing them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it seemed like Coach Riley was saying that he obviously said that they want to push away. You guys want to push away from getting players from the portal and go with a more homegrown, keep players and develop them strategy. Do you feel like that's the antidote to maybe the one and done portal, like kind of trend we've seen evolve in college football right now?
I mean, to me, the portal is just like a free agency. It's the same thing we have in the NFL. I think you build your team through the draft, just like you build your team through your high school recruiting process. And then you have free agency, or you have the portal to fill gaps when you need those gaps. You never want to go into an offseason with so many gaps that you have to rely on free agency or rely on the portal. I think you hope that we can recruit at a high enough level and develop at a high enough level that you go in there when you need to and not when you have to. And I think this offseason we went in there a little bit more than we want to. But we feel really good about our 24 class. We feel really good about the class that we're recruiting now. So hopefully down the road, we don't have to go into the portal as much as we did this year.
A common theme with the players that you did recruit seems to be just physicality. How important is that when you are a defender?
Huge, especially in going into the Big Ten. That's a big physical conference. So that's something that, size, physicality, and strength, that's something that we've really emphasized on our side of the ball.
As someone who played in the Big Ten, how does it feel to return as a defensive coordinator in that conference?
Super excited. Super excited. I think that is my favorite conference as a fan. I just think that the game, the atmospheres in that conference are unbelievable, and it's going to be cool to get some of those teams to come out here as well.
When you get your roster, finally you see them in pads out on the field, what's your process as to, what you need to do, the strengths, weaknesses of your team? How do you analyze that?
So in the spring, I try to give everyone just a fair shot. I obviously we all watched the tape from last year, so we have we have an idea of the guys going into spring, but this is going to be a completely different defense. And like last year at UCLA, there were some guys that you didn't anticipate making that jump that got into a new scheme, and you just saw them take off. And then there were some guys that it was the exact opposite, that you anticipated taking that next step, or you thought that they'd be that guy. And with the scheme switch, they just ended up not. So I think I just try to go into spring with an open mind. I don't worry about if it's the ones, twos, or the threes. I'm just looking at who's out there, how are they executing the defense, and then as spring ball goes on, I think after like week 3 or 4, everything kind of works itself out at some point.
How do you judge how the defense is progressing, given that you're going to be going against a Lincoln Riley offense that has so much continuity coming out in spring?
I think that we really just have to focus on ourselves and just try to get better and better each day, and just focus on development of the players, and just can't compare ourselves too much because, again, they've been with each other a lot longer, but at the same time, we're going to show up and compete every single day.
Something that, even just as a college football fan, I've been trying to figure out for as long as possible is, you need to have repetition and physicality when it comes to tackling and tackling well, but you also have to keep your players healthy. What's your philosophy when it comes to making sure your team is sound tacklers?
There's that fine balance. You have to hit tackling from every angle, in my opinion. It can't just be something that's talked about and done on the field. You have to hit it in the meeting room. You have to show good examples, bad examples. You have to have drills. You have to show the drills carrying over to practice, drills carrying over to games, good examples, bad examples. There's definitely a time and a place where you need to tackle in practice, but that's just one of those things where you have to keep on staying on the guys. And even when you're a good tackling team, you can't say, hey, we're a good tackling team, we can ease up. No, you have to stay on it all the time.
So practice is obviously the key.
Yes.
Repetition. As far as you described Coach Eric Henderson as the complete coach, it seems like he's just been a jolt of energy on the recruiting trail. How have you seen him be effective in that area? He's been awesome.
Every recruit that I get on the phone that has and talked with him, just how excited everyone is, I think is awesome. But he's an elite coach. He has a great personality, and he's very passionate about his job. And when he starts talking to kids about coaching and defensive line, he's going to be a hard guy to say no to.
As far as Matt Ince, he has so much experience and such a unique position to come be the linebackers coach. What was that conversation like with him to kind of get him here at USC?
The conversation was great. We really just talked football and just got a feel for each other. He's an outstanding coach. He's obviously had a lot of success. So to have a guy with that type of experience on our staff, not just from a coordinator standpoint, but big picture wise, he's been a head coach. And to have that type of experience on our staff, especially for me as an inexperienced coordinator, is tremendous.
As far as Doug Belk, you described on Thursday that you heard about him in the coaching circles. He comes from the Nick Saban tree. What was his reputation among coaches?
I had heard of him, so we were in Houston at the same time. I was a secondary coach, and he was the coordinator. And then I've coached a handful of his guys in the NFL, and I was just always prepared when we got his guys. They were always super, super prepared. They were well coached, and I was just always impressed. So when we had a chance to get him, just within 10 minutes of our conversation, I could tell, this is the guy. We have a lot in common, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that we see different, but I think we're going to make each other better.
Interesting. What are some of those differences?
Well, again, I just coming from the Saban tree, it's a different tree than I've been in. So there's just some techniques, some coverages where he's done it this way, I've done it that way. So it's been great in conversations as far as taking a little bit of stuff that he's done, a little bit of stuff that I've done. Sometimes our conversations will lead to a way that neither of us have done. But again, we're just trying to find the best way.
Something that's so interesting, just listening to your past couple press conferences, you seem like a very humble guy. You're not trying to have this ego that, you admit when you don't know something. And I feel like someone who's not secure in themselves doesn't really do that. Where does your humility come from to be able to be so open in that sense?
I feel like, if you want to grow as a coach, you have to. I like having the best coaches around me. I think you can get great ideas from anywhere. And especially with the type of staff that we have, with the experience that we have, I think it would be, you don't want to take that experience for granted. You have to put your ego aside, put the team first. And when you do that, that's when you grow the most as a team and a coach.
You spoke about how Rex Ryan has been such an influential figure for you. What are some of the things that he's left an impression on you about?
I mean, he really was just my introduction to coaching and just football. So I was his quality control coach, so just making his playbook, just all the coverages that we ran, all the fronts, all the pressures. I just got exposed to so much football within my first 3 years in the NFL that I felt like everywhere else I've gone since then, really Rex prepared me.
As we mentioned, you've been on the recruiting trail, so I know you haven't had too much time to interact with everyone, but what have you learned about Lincoln Riley since accepting the job?
He's super competitive, which I love. And, you look at his track record and his success, it makes sense. He's a super competitive guy. But again, he's determined to play good defense here. And I think anyone who's around him, I think everyone's on board and everyone really believes in him.
As far as just coming to USC, how has that been, kind of getting to know what the Trojan family is all about?
It's been super exciting. A school like this with the history, with the tradition. I grew up a really big-time college ball fan. My dad played in the NFL, so I didn't really have like a college. USC's always been, I think, a school that, when anyone thinks of in college ball, USC is one of the top programs that comes to their mind. So to be a part of a program like this, with the history, with the great players and coaches that have come through here is an extreme honor.
You mentioned your father. What influence has he had on you with football as well?
A lot. When he played, I wanted to be a player. He started to coach. I wanted to be a coach. Once he started coaching, I was in 5th or 6th grade. I would go to work with him all the time. I was always there in OTAs, during camp. He I think just being exposed to the game that early, I probably learned a lot of things that I didn't know I was learning at the time.
Do you feel like it's just been one track of football since you got exposed to it so soon? Were there any other career paths in your mind as a little kid?
No, it's been all football. And my parents tried to steer me in any other way, but it's been all football.
What direction did they try to get you in?
My dad really wanted me to play golf. And there was a period where, I was a really good golfer when we lived in Jacksonville. And I thought about it, but I always came back to ball. But he really wanted me to play golf.
That's fascinating. So not even just like a doctor, but
no,
still in the sports
golf.
world.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like you made the right decision, though, ultimately with football.
Yeah. And then after I stopped playing, he did not want me to coach.
Really?
He wanted me to get into business. He wanted me to be a scout. He wanted me to do anything else but coach.
Why is that?
Just the time commitment, the lifestyle. He wanted me to explore other things.
Yeah, you were someone who grew up knowing what this lifestyle is like, and you still chose it.
Yeah.
Is that just your love for football?
It's a combination of that, and I think it's just really all I knew. I think football has just really been a big part of my life, not just a game, but as far as like, I went to 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. You know, all those moves were because of ball. When I made all those moves, you know, it's hard to make friends, but you make friends a lot faster playing ball.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Has your dad come around to you coaching? Has he accepted it now?
He has, yeah.
That's good. As far as just you as a person, what would you like USC fans to know about you?
You know, I'm super competitive, super passionate. I love football, but I'm really passionate about just like developing these kids. I think that was one of the biggest differences I saw coming from the NFL to college was it is a lot more rewarding when you see the growth in these kids that you don't really see in the NFL. Like from the time I got to UCLA in the spring to the end of the year, just seeing the development and growth of all those kids was just something that you don't see in the NFL. And, you know, that's why I think I love this job at this level the most.
Overall for you, what would you consider a successful spring camp for this team and your defense?
You know, we want the guys to have a good understanding of just the core concepts of the defense. Again, we're not going to throw the entire playbook at them, but we want them to have a good understanding of the core and concepts so that way when spring ball ends, when we start fall camp, we can start adding on. And, again, we want to be multiple. We want to make it look like a lot, but we have to start slow.
Alrighty, Coach. Thanks so much for the time and good luck.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Like I said, it was a short and sweet interview episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something more about Coach Lynn. That's always the goal with these interviews. I want to make sure you know these people as a human, as a person. It's always fun to get to talk to them one-on-one. So like I said, hope you enjoyed it. But that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Very excited for spring camp. It's coming down the pipeline. It starts March 19th. The USC spring game is April 20th. It'll be your one chance to see the Trojans this spring, so make sure you make plans if you haven't already. But like I said, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for tuning in today's episode. We'll see you next time.